On today's episode 16 of Sculpt and Create, we're diving into the art of balancing it all: business, relationships, family, and personal identity with someone who has not only lived it, but has spent decades helping others find harmony in their own lives. Our guest today is Allison Bonilla, a licensed clinical social worker, professional life strategist, and relationship coach who specializes in helping high achievers resolve the tension between their professional and personal worlds. She's known for guiding people to create alignment between their business, their babies, and their boo, and do it with clarity, peace, and purpose too. See how I made that rhyme? Allison is an award-winning community mental health provider, and in 2018, she became an international speaker when she presented a workshop in Buca Tobago. She's also the founder of the Women Online Bible Study, a space that has been uplifting and supporting women in their faith for over 5 years. Her journey is powerful. Growing up as a Caribbean American, navigating identity, expectations, and belonging sparked a lifelong mission to help others who also felt caught between worlds. With nearly 30 years as a licensed psychotherapist while raising 4 boys alongside her husband, she learned firsthand how to build a thriving business without sacrificing the relationships that matter most. And now she brings that wisdom to clients she coaches today. And here's a fun fact. When she's not helping people create more harmony in their lives, you might catch her vibing to K-pop or deep into K-drama storyline. And she's currently preparing to launch her newest program, The Garden of Growth, helping business owners reflect, refine, and plant the seeds for sustainable success in 2026. So take a deep breath, because the episode is all about restoration, clarity, and realignment. Let us welcome Allison to the show. Welcome to Sculpt and Create, where fitness fuels creativity and helping artists and entertainers towards their physical, personal, and career growth. I'm your host, Trea Da Fit Artist, and who I have with me today is Allison Bonilla. Welcome to the show, Allison.
Thank you so much for that wonderful welcome. Lovely to be here this morning.
I'm glad you can make it. So before we begin, tell everybody where they can find you and, shout your sites and stuff.
AllisonBcoaching.com. I'll give you the information. You can put it later on in your notes. That's where you could find everything about me, I guess. Just my website, AllisonBcoaching.com.
I like that, Allison B Coaching. I like that. Okay.
I know. It has a little ring to it, right?
Oh, yeah.
And if you say it with a little bit of swag, it's like really good. Allison B Coaching.
Okay, definitely. So is B your middle name?
B is my last name.
Last name. Okay, cool. Okay, definitely. And that's why I go by Trea Da Fit Artist, my moniker for my business and so forth as well. Okay, but so tell us a little bit about yourself, like who you are and what do you do currently?
Okay, well, I am someone who in the last 5 years have been rebranding myself because I've been known for the last 30 years as a licensed psychotherapist in Florida. I have my license. I have a private practice, a thriving private practice that I've been working in for the last, as I said, 30 years. So for the last 5 years, I've been transitioning out of the psychotherapy field into the coaching field. How I've done that is by letting go of a lot of clients, not taking on new clients in the last 5 years, and basically taking on more coaching clients as opposed to therapy clients. I love working with people, and even though I am officially retired as a psychotherapist, I want to remain available to help people in a different capacity, similar but different, for as many years as God allows me to be able to do it.
Okay, definitely. Can you tell us what is, so you are a professional life strategist, work-life balance, relationship coach, right? So tell us more about that and what that entails.
Professional Life Strategist is a title I came up with because I just didn't feel connected with the word coaching, even though the mode by which I was working with people was through coaching. I utilized the word Professional Life Strategist because I do primarily work with people who have some kind of professional or career goal. But I also work with people who, along with that, value their personal life and their personal relational goals. To just give you a little backstory, if I may, in the many years that I worked as a psychotherapist, diagnosing, treating mental health issues, It's a wonderful field. It's very challenging. I've loved it. But I did run across quite a few clients, quite a few individuals who really didn't meet the criteria for mental health diagnosis, yet they were still coming to my office to seek help. And what it turned out to be, as I looked at it in hindsight, is that those individuals were not classically, clinically mental health diagnosable, but they did have struggles and stresses. And what they needed instead of therapy was really coaching. So once I was able to identify those clients who were therapy versus those clients who were coaching, I saw that there was a little gap to be filled there, and it could be filled by myself. Therapists can do therapy and coaching. Coaches can only do coaching. So as a psychotherapist, when I met clients who needed coaching aspect, I found that they were usually people who were very goal directed, whether the goal directed was they were goal directed within their relationship. They just wanted it to get better. They just wanted things to work
Mm,
out well. They wanted to make sure that they were not the reason for the problem. They wanted me to help them elevate their relational skills, their communication skills. They wanted to be better. Same thing with the professionals. They
mm,
wanted to know what was keeping them from getting that promotion. What is it that they had to do to relate better to their bottom line, to their upper management, to their colleagues? What it is that they were communicating that maybe they couldn't see? They couldn't see their own blocks. And
mm.
they came to me and they said, okay, this is what's going on. I'm here. I want to get here. I don't know what's going on in here that's not allowing me to move forward, not allowing me to level up. So they might have a little bit of anxiety, may have a little bit of depression, but it wasn't clinical, which is different.
Okay.
I mean, Trey, you can admit there are days you've got a little anxiety, right?
Yeah, definitely. You get them burnouts and take a toll on you sometimes. Yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. You don't run to a therapist every time you wake up and say, I'm feeling a little anxious today. I'm
Mm.
gonna go interview Allison. I'm feeling a little bit anxious. Let me better go get a session in.
Right, right. You right.
So that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Certainly when you have clinical depression, clinical anxiety, you definitely should see a psychotherapist and work on those issues. So to make a long story, hopefully shorter, that's why I really became fascinated with the idea of just peeling off the therapy aspect and just going with the coaching aspect in retirement.
Okay. All right. So basically, it took you to go through being a therapist to get to the point of coaching where you can kind of blend those two together, right?
Yeah. I'm very careful with my clients, though. I let them know up front. I said, if as I'm working with you, I do see that there's a deeper issue that really involves a need for more therapy, I
Hmm.
do refer out because, again, even though I still have my license and even though I'm still qualified to do I mean, it's knowledge. It doesn't go
Hmm.
away just because I say I'm retired.
Right.
But my desire is to travel. My husband is retiring also. So we've been married 40 years and we have a
Congrats.
Thank you. We have a bucket list of places we want to travel, and I want to continue to work remotely. I want to be on a beach someplace and say, okay, I'm going to meet with a client,
Right, right, right.
go off and go scuba diving, do what you got to do. I'll be right here, and I could do a little bit of work, not a lot,
Hmm.
and enjoy that even as we're traveling and seeing the world.
Okay. I definitely can relate to that. That's one of the reasons why I went to the online coaching than doing it in person. Because you do have that, you're not tethered to a location or to a person, and you can work pretty much anywhere. But all right, so now with you mentioned depression, and I think that's very important, like to know the difference between the two. So between clinical depression and just I guess you want to say regular depression, or so to like for I guess for the audience, no matter who they are listening, how would they know the difference where they probably need to go get help and so forth between the two?
Clinical depression, you have to look at it in terms of the intensity and the duration. In clinical depression, we look at 2 weeks, it's not letting up. It's not just like, yeah, I got 2 days where I'm just kind of feeling down. I don't feel like I want to get out of bed. But then,
Hmm.
on the third day, you're up and you're around and go, whew, I don't know what that was, but I got through it. Maybe I went out with a friend, they cheered me up. Maybe I got some good rest. And now I'm feeling better physically. When you have clinical depression, you don't snap out of it that quickly. The criteria, we use something called a DSM, Diagnostic Statistical Manual, and there's a
Okay.
criteria, and you have to match so many of those points. And one of them really is the duration, 2 weeks. Then there are some other things that could be there: change in diet, change in socialization, change in, certainly we know if someone is thinking suicidal thoughts, that's not just a, one day kind of event, if they're contemplating taking life. So there's a whole criteria. And once you meet those things, we're now not talking about you just having a bad day.
Mhm.
We're talking about there's something a little bit more deep seated that
Okay.
needs to be addressed.
Right.
So, when you have people who say, well, you're going to feel better tomorrow, then it's
Mhm.
maybe you're just having a bad day or a bad couple of days. But if it's pretty consistent, you know, minimum of 2 weeks, then we know we're looking at clinical depression.
Okay. And I think that's important too for to recognize that. And I think a lot of people of our culture and so forth, we kind of be kind of like raised or kind of like conditioned to like take the brunt of everything and thinking we are okay, I'm gonna get through it. I think that's important to shine light on that as well for us saying, if we need help, go get help. Do you kind of find people trying to do small little things to try to help themselves when really they really when they need to be go getting the help because it's always shunned on. Oh, I don't talk to nobody. What they gonna do for me and so forth. Can you talk to that a little bit because I think that's important to talk about as well.
What you said is so true. And it is the stigmatization of
Hmm.
receiving mental health has been great for, I've been in this field over 30 years and it's gotten so much better.
Okay.
You think it's bad now. Oh
Yeah.
gosh, it's way, way better than it used to be. We've even got to a point where people in the middle of a networking conversation will say, oh, well, I spoke to my therapist yesterday.
Okay.
20 years ago, nobody would ever
Yeah.
admit that they
I
spoke
know.
to their therapist.
Yeah, I know.
Therapist? What therapist? But because I am a Christian counselor, I could speak a lot to the faith community.
Okay.
That community is very much still closed off from therapy. It is one of the hardest communities to get to accept the idea that God might provide healing through a therapist.
Hmm.
I mean, in the faith community, if you have a headache, you take an aspirin. Nobody, nobody preaches against you taking an aspirin.
Yeah.
But if you say that you are on some antidepressant or
Hmm.
anti-anxiety medication, you'd swear you told them that you were on crack.
Hmm. Or
They're
you
like,
crazy. Yeah.
you're crazy. You don't trust God. Oh my goodness. So it's kind of like it boggles my mind that you would take a pill that would chemically alter your system to provide you relief
Mm.
in one area, but you wouldn't take a pill to chemically alter your system to provide you relief in
Mm.
another area. So when I have, because I don't prescribe, but sometimes I do have clients who do need some pharmaceutical help on top of the talk therapy. So that's one talking point that kind of keeps people away from the world of mental health and the healing or the wellness that could come there. Then also the other community that really struggles with the idea of getting mental help is the African American community.
Yeah. Well, that's why I said our culture. Yeah.
Our culture. Absolutely. It's like, everybody wants to tell stories about the crazy Uncle Joey or the
Hmm.
crazy Aunt Bertha, and
Yeah.
nobody wants to be the crazy Uncle Joey or Aunt
Hmm.
Bertha. And they don't realize they're sitting in their pain and how it manifests a lot of times in the African American community is in terms of physical wellness.
Hmm.
We have so much high blood pressure. We have so many strokes. We have so much diabetes. And people want to address nutrition, yes. Exercise, yes.
Hmm.
We have a lot of obesity in the
Hmm.
African American
Right.
community.
Yeah.
But I'm looking at it from a mental health perspective, and I am seeing people who are not well. They don't have mental wellness. They have
Hmm.
mental illness. They don't have
Hmm.
mental wellness.
Yeah.
And it rolls down into the not taking care of yourself, the not being physically active, being very sedentary, the not engaging in healthy relationships because of trauma that they've had. I mean, so whereas doctors could look and say, I see that your sugar's elevated, your pressures, and they will prescribe you, medication for all of that. Very rarely will a doctor look at you with all those conditions and say,
Mhm.
have you considered also talking to a therapist? What kind of reaction would you have? I mean, be honest. If you go in there and they tell you you've got high blood pressure and all these things, and they say, have you considered talking to a therapist?
Okay.
What's your reaction?
Now, when you put it that way, when you say about they telling you you got all these issues for high blood pressure and so forth, and then they say, "Have you considered a therapist?" That's a good one because now they just came out right and just said it. I would say, okay, well maybe I do. I would think about it a little different. But when you say those type of ailments to it, I'm thinking like, what did that got to do with me having high blood pressure? That would be the first thing I think come to my mind. And what is you saying going on with me that causing this? If that's the case, I mean, I'm thinking you when you think about those type of ailments, you thinking I'm eating wrong. I might be a little bit overweight. I might be a little tired, but you ain't thinking about it's something with your mental health and everything.
So they have not made that connection.
Mm,
And people get frankly offended. It's like, wait a second, I'm perfectly fine. Just my body is falling apart. Well, how we care for ourselves physically is sometimes, not sometimes, many times a function of what's going on
mm,
internally and mentally.
mm,
If you're not moving, why aren't you moving? If you're not eating right, why aren't you not eating right? If you're there's quite a strong connection that's not
yeah.
paid attention to.
Yeah, and I often say, even though I'm a fitness coach and trainer, it's so many hats. So when we do kind of have to be a therapist and so forth in certain things, because it is a mental aspect when it comes to how we eat certain foods and stuff like that. We look for comfort for food and how we feel and stuff like that. And that's why I always still preach that mental health is definitely before anything to even to even reach your fitness goals. It had to come from your mental. So you're not really even in a mental state, but I wouldn't be the best to help you on that until you get that right. But still, at the same time, I have to, definitely put myself into what that client is feeling and what they are kind of going through to kind of break through some mental barriers. Now, I'm not like I said again, I'm not a therapist, but certain things I can break through, to help them get along. You do have to tap into why they doing it and everything. So I think that speaks to a lot of that. And with that said, think too, like I said, with being in our African American culture, is a stigmatism because of how we were treated in hospitals and so forth. I think that's a lot of that go on. Because my mama right now, she don't like to take certain medicines and stuff like that, but she do take certain ones. But that's crazy. It's selective of which ones you take, and everything. But it's all of it chemicals and so forth. So I think a lot of it goes with that. Why we scared to go to the doctor, but especially us men, we think, oh, I'm good and I just walk it out. Well, we taught that during a young age, but it should change, but that's part of it though too. And I'm good as long as I'm walking and doing everything else I was doing. It'll go by. It'll pass away.
Yeah, we also pray it out,
Right.
and I'm
Okay.
a strong
Okay. There
believer
go
in
another
prayer.
one.
A
Right.
strong believer in prayer.
That's another one. The good one. That's yeah. So right. God gonna make a way. True. You know what I'm saying. But at the same time, faith without works is dead. You got to definitely put the work in on yourself to get out of it and everything, and then have God in the epicenter of that as well. I would say.
I always connected, as I said before, with the way we view just physical health because,
Mm,
the body and the mind and the spirit, they're all interconnected. If you came on here and said, Allison, I have a real bad headache, I might easily say, have you taken an aspirin? I mean,
mm,
go lie down, close your eyes, maybe take an aspirin, see if you feel better. I mean, I might address a physical change, go lie down, close your eyes, but I might also address maybe a pharmacological solution and take an aspirin. And
Okay.
hopefully you'll feel better in the morning. And if you don't feel better in the morning, I think you might want to go see your doctor. Make sure that's if you've had this a headache for a couple of days, we don't know if it's a tumor. Let's go see if there's
Hmm.
something else going on. So that's like the medical model. Now, if I meet you and I'm aware of you and you've been in bed for the last 4 days and you're just not feeling right and you're like, depressed or just showing you're not eating or you're overeating and you're just kind of like, your affect is flat, something has changed and you're not
Right.
the tree that I've seen for a while. I'm not going to say, oh, go take a aspirin, go to bed, and let's check in the morning. I might say quite the opposite. I might say, hey, Trey, come on, let's go for a walk. That's the
Hmm.
physical. Let's see if we can activate you, get you
Yeah.
going.
Yeah.
Let's get up. Let's see if we could socialize a little bit, let you get engaged in community and talk. And
Hmm.
let's see if we can pull you out of your funk or, what have you. And if none of that is working, I'm going to also say, hey, you know what? Maybe we need to see a therapist.
Okay.
Maybe we need to see someone who you could delve in a little bit deeper with to
Okay.
talk about some of the things that are going on. As a Christian, we share faith. I might say, okay, I'm going to sit with you and I'm going to pray with you. However, we don't rule out any of those things. All those things are wonderful. But again, you don't put a Band-Aid on a gaping wound. You have to assess what is going on. Is it just you have a couple of days that you're down, maybe something happened at work and, life is hard. You're facing maybe a job termination, as a lot of people are dealing with things these days, right? And you could understand that's situational.
Hmm.
But if it goes on too long, that could also mean that you're in clinical depression. And, a good loving person would say, hey, that doesn't mean you're crazy. It just means that how this has overwhelmed your system. It's overwhelmed your mental resources. And maybe you do need to sit with somebody who has the time, the patience, and the ability to listen without fixing, who could give you the space to come to some solutions that would help you move forward.
Yeah. Okay. So would I know you now in the coaching space now, but with like a person that may don't know if they need it or not, how do they get the courage to come into maybe your office or go seek a therapist and so forth to get the help that they need?
Okay. A lot of it comes down also to money.
Okay.
Money is an important factor. Most of the people I dealt with over the years had insurance. So I would
Okay.
always, if people would call me, I'd always say, do you have insurance? The first question I would ask is, do you
Hmm.
have insurance?
Hmm.
If they say they don't have insurance, I would refer them to whatever community support, mental health support was there. We have an agency in our community that, they get the grants to
Hmm.
work with people who don't. So money isn't a barrier, but it's, something you have to consider because unlike visiting a doctor once a month, once every 6 weeks,
Hmm.
therapy is something where you'd be going weekly for a while.
Okay. Yeah.
Sometimes people are like, "Oh, one and done." No, it doesn't work that way.
Hmm.
So if you have a copay of, let's say, $20, and that's low today. Sometimes I see copays of, $50, and you could say, "Okay, I could do that," but are you going to be able to do that 4 times for the month? You've
Yeah.
just given
Okay.
yourself $100 bill. Can you do that?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
All right.
Okay.
So I'm always looking and saying, okay, what are the resources here? Because when I'm referring to somebody, I want them to be able to start a process that they could continue to the end. I don't want them to stop midway just because they've run out of funds. I want to make sure that I connect them with a therapist who they can afford. I want to make sure I connect them to somebody who they could have access to
Hmm.
location wise. I'm not
Hmm.
going to connect you to a therapist that's an hour and a half drive and you're struggling with transportation issues.
Hmm.
Then you're not going to follow through and you're not going to be consistent. And
Right.
one thing with therapeutic care, it's a relational kind of care. And you see that person weekly for a while. Over time, as you're getting better, it might be biweekly, it might be monthly, and then you get discharged. Or you get discharged after seeing the person for 6 weeks in a row.
Okay.
So you have to kind of factor those things in. And I think
Okay.
sometimes people don't think down the road when they're doing referrals and they'll do inappropriate referrals. It's appropriate in terms of what the person can do skill set wise, but it's not appropriate in terms of the cost factor or the accessibility factor. So I always kind of make sure about those things. I recommend that they check with their insurance company first.
Okay.
And then if there's no help there, they could always go on something like Psychology Today, which is an online platform, and they could Google and look up therapists in the area, call and find out if you're African American, is it important to you to have an African American therapist? Is it important to you, if you're a Christian, to have a Christian therapist? You could filter for all those things. So filter for what you want. And even when you call your insurance company, you could make requests. You could call them and say, I'm looking for an Asian American therapist who understands Buddhism, and you could factor for all those things so that there is a possibility that you'll get the best match for who
Okay.
you are, for your culture, for your finances, and location.
Okay. I think that's very important to put that out there. Now, like, let's go back a little bit. So, what you started as a therapist? What got you into doing it when you first started? Like, what made prompt you to do that?
I'm going to tell the story. I've told it for years, but
Okay.
I always laugh when I tell it. As a young person,
Okay.
I was bused from my Brooklyn neighborhood all the way to, can't remember, Long Island, not Long Island. What is that? The beach community. It's missing my brain
It's in
right
New
now.
York.
New York, yes, New York.
Oh, okay.
So,
I wouldn't know.
so yeah. Anyhow, I had to get to. I had to take a bus and then a train to get to
Mm,
school. I was one of those kids who were bused. When I got on that train, the J train that I remember, it was always somebody would sit next to me. And now, keep in mind, I'm a little kid at this point.
mm,
I wasn't like looking like an adult. I was still looking like a kid.
mm.
And people would sit and tell me all their problems.
Okay.
No light trick. I was like, I'm a kid. Why are you telling me this? I don't know anything about your life.
Right.
They
Right.
would see me, I would walk with a book,
Mm,
always reading a book. I would have a book in front of me, and I'd finally get a seat on those crowded morning trains.
mm.
Seat would open, I'd run to the seat, sit down, open my book. Good, I have a good 40 minutes. I could just read. And somebody would look over and go, oh, what are you reading? Oh, that's so nice. I'm like, yeah, yeah, thank you. And I said, yeah, I'm on my way to see my son. He's sick. He's in the hospital. There I am closing the book. Oh, I'm so sorry to hear that. Yeah, we've had a real troubled relationship. And I'd get this whole story. The joke in my family is every time at dinner time when I'd come home, my mom would say, so whose story did you hear today? Tell us about it. I'm like, oh, yeah, this guy and his wife, they're getting divorced. But
Uh,
he said how she's a B word, and I can't tell you what the word is, Mom. But she would say, is it about you? You're a magnet. People just keep on coming to you and telling you all their
okay.
issues. In my friends group, the same thing. I
Mm,
always surrounded with friends who had really problematic lives, and they
mm.
would come and say, oh, this is what happens today and this is what's going on tomorrow. So at some point, my mom said to me, I think this is God's calling for you. And at that point, I didn't know what she meant. Calling? What are you talking about, calling? She says, I think this is God's calling for you. I think you are meant to be in a place where you could hear people's problems. Now, when she said that, I have to tell you, Trey, I was like, no, I want to be an airline stewardess. I've got a different vision for my life. I want to dress nice and travel to
Right.
different places. Yeah, and I'm like, I was looking up the criteria. BWIA, are they hiring?
Yeah.
And I'm like, hiring? I get old, that's what I want to do.
Hmm.
Introduced to psychology because of that. And I thought, well, let
Okay.
me just explore it. But
Okay.
one thing led to another. And then this field so I always say I didn't choose this field chose.
Okay. Okay. That's what's up. I always like to hear people's origin stories. Definitely, it got to a point when I like that part where you said they like, what's the story today? Like it turned to a show for them, really. Like who you were talking to today? What going on and everything. I can see that. Okay. And so let's go into for the relationship coaching. So let's talk about that a little bit because for us artists and entertainers, we was talking about in the pre-interview where relationships are at a strain. Not even just with the artists and entertainers, but being an entrepreneur or just going for your brand or goal, have lofty goals, ambitious goals, and so forth. Sometimes with people who have that mindset or looking to get a certain place kind of have their relationship strained. So can you talk to that point there?
Yeah. A lot of those clients that identified that needed coaching were what I call high functioning clients. They
Okay.
were doctors, lawyers. I had one person who was a politician, nurses. I mean, people who had um, really advanced careers. And in the coaching world, I saw that they struggled a lot to manage their professional lives and goals and ambitions along with the needs of their family and their significant others. So it caused a lot of strain and a lot of tension.
Okay.
So when I started looking at being a professional life strategist, I knew that was one of the things I really wanted to work with them on.
Mhm.
I'm a certified facilitator for a program called Prepare Enrich, and I do premarital and also relationship maintenance kind of sessions for people. It is surrounding an online assessment tool that the individuals, the man and the woman, they go on separately and they complete a an assessment tool, and once it's done, it's the computer takes care of everything and sends me a report.
Okay.
So it lets me know where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, where the areas of great struggle and challenge are. And then I go back and I meet with them. I have all the answers in terms of the assessment. They don't see each other's answers, but I see the result of it. I see where there's a lot of
I like
alignment and I
that.
see where there's a lot of disconnect.
Okay.
And then what I do with them, and I say to them, knowing the result, I say, so tell me about your communication. How do you guys feel that it is? And she might say, oh, we have great communication. And he's rolling his eyes.
Yeah. Okay.
I say, well, according to the report, there's a bit of a challenge there. There's a bit of a disconnect. And sometimes I'm just making up these individuals right now. I'm just giving you an example. And she
Hmm.
might be like, I thought we were doing well with that. And so then, it opens up a conversation. And I'd say, well, would you like to know what the report revealed? It revealed a disconnect like
Hmm.
this. I don't say what the answers were, but I say, okay. And it might be surprised to one. I was like, oh, okay. I didn't realize that, we were struggling in that area. So then men especially, they like data, they like evidence, they like
Yeah.
something that's very concrete as opposed to he feels, she feels.
Right. Right.
Whereas women are like very intuitive. Well, I feel like we're not talking, so they'll go
Yeah.
with that. But if you in couple counseling and coaching, if you approach the man and the couple with that, they're kind of like feelings. What do we know about that? Give me some evidence.
Yeah.
But so when I come with my evidence, they're like, oh, okay, yeah. So let's talk about it because we see that there's something there that we could talk about. So then once we acknowledge whatever the areas of struggle are, I start to work with them on tools. Know?
Okay.
So it's very clear. Do you want to work on this? This is something that you feel would benefit the relationship. What would your relationship look like if you guys were stronger in your communication? Can it be better than it is right now? Even
Mm.
for the person who doesn't see a problem, who's going to say, no, I don't want to get better at communicating with my partner?
Yeah. Definitely.
So, yeah, so that's how I got into relationship work. I did it in counseling, but I like doing it in coaching because in coaching, you have people who are in counseling. Let me just give you a thing. In counseling, sometimes I would meet people who would come in for marriage counseling, but I used to say like I was a relationship mortician.
What was good?
They just came for me to declare the relationship dead.
Okay, I got you. Okay.
They stopped by my office on the way to divorce court.
Okay, gotcha.
They just want to say to somebody, and I even saw a marriage counselor. I tried to make it work,
Yeah. Okay.
but they really just wanted a mortician, a relationship mortician to
Yeah. Go
dead.
ahead. Yeah, but say stamp it. Yeah.
Go ahead and bury it. It's
Yeah.
gone. And they could say, oh, even the counselor thought it was dead. You see?
Yeah.
So when I saw that, that was where I thought marriage counseling was kind of going. But when
Okay.
I saw marriage coaching, I saw people who said, I just want to know how to make this better.
Okay.
I want to know What could we do? Maybe I see some areas of challenge already, but I don't need you to declare it dead. I need you to show me how to make it really lively and more alive, you know? And if they have a partner who agrees with that, it's a beautiful thing.
Okay. And I was going to ask you that, like, do people come to you for its relationships? Do they come to you where it's already bad, and everything like that or whatever? So is that the bulk of your clients, or is that they just trying to work on it?
And okay, again, there are two things, marriage counseling and marriage coaching. They are
Okay.
different things. I know the words sound very similar, but they are different things. In marriage counseling, I
Hmm.
usually found, like I said, that one out of the couple, whoever made the appointment was usually the one who was most vested in a specific outcome. And
Okay.
and it's not always the outcome you want to think it is. One who didn't make the appointment is usually the one who's blindsided, who's like, I didn't know it was that bad.
Hmm.
But lots of times in marriage counseling, the coaching should have happened 2 years earlier. There's somebody there who says, I've been telling for the last 2 years that this is done. I've been telling him I'm going to leave him. I'm going to leave him. But now I'm definitely leaving. And he's just dragging me here and I don't know. So in coaching, like I said, that's usually a joint effort. It might be the wife who makes the appointment, but uh, you could tell the husband's not coming in blindsided.
Okay.
They've kind of both identified that, hey, we need something here. It's like
Okay.
we've just had a baby and I'm kind of feeling like a little bit disconnected from my spouse.
Hmm.
She and I both agree we don't know how to get it back on track. So we're coming in for more coaching than counseling. I don't know
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get you. The marriage count, I think, is still that same stigmatism around it, because that's the reason why they go to the counseling, like you said, to put a stamp on it, to go with it. And I think a lot of guys know that, so that's usually why the women probably. I'm not trying to say that's what it is. I don't know the stats, but that's probably why most women, book it and everything. Most guys don't want to go. 'Cause I see a lot of TV shows where they do the counseling, and most of the time it's the woman initiated. So I'm just going off that. I mean, am I wrong on that assumption, or okay?
It's the woman. And sometimes if it's a man, it's because the woman has said, if you don't make an appointment with a counselor today,
Okay.
I'm heading straight to the divorce court. I'm
Okay.
done with
Okay.
this. Make an appointment. Let's get it. But
Hmm.
even then, their mindset is already, I know she's going to see what I see and she's
Hmm.
going to tell me I'm justified and
Yeah.
she's going to side with me. And the
Hmm.
man sees that. So that's why he doesn't want to make the appointment. He
Right.
thinks we're going to gang up against him. He's like, oh, my wife thinks I'm a terrible, no good, lousy, inattentive, whatever,
Hmm.
so and so. And she's going to go and talk to the counselor and I'm going to be ganged up against. There'll be two women in a room both looking at me, telling me, why am I such a bad husband? Why am I such a bad father? Why am I such a bad provider?
Right.
You know? So
Yeah.
they already come in super defensive.
Right. Yeah. I can see that. Okay. And what I think is interesting too as well, like a couple days before, then maybe even just a day before we, in between we doing a pre-interview and up to now, this guy that does the Grits and Ed podcast, I forget his name right now, but he was actually talking about this particular topic. So he was saying that when when we looking to lose weight and so forth, we eat a certain way, we work out a certain way, and we do that for a long period of time, maintenance on ourselves and whatever else that may be. But he said, what if we in a relationship do that, go to a therapist or a counselor once a month or something like that when things are good.
Maintenance.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what he was
Yeah.
saying. He was
I
like,
totally agree.
yeah, he was like, so he was like that. He think that would be a good idea because we always come to it at the end, or when it's not going as well. But when things are good, why we we want to keep that up? So why not go to look at going to the therapist or a coach, in that manner? So I think that was something that was crazy. I'm talking to a relationship coach. So what do you think about that?
I love it.
Uh-huh.
I've preached it for many years. Like,
Mm-hmm.
It's it's something I wish would take off.
Mm-hmm.
People go on retreats all the time and
Mm-hmm.
for various reasons. And I know there are a couple of organizations out there. I know Focus on the Family has one, and different organizations have little kind of maintenance kind of
Mm-hmm.
retreats for couples.
Uh-huh.
Go on one of them,
Yeah.
just have fun. Go to another destination just like you would do, kill two birds with one stone.
Mhm.
Go off and do one of those weekends to remember. I think that's the name of the Focus on the Family one.
Okay.
And reconnect and have good conversation. Because here's the point with that. It's not just about two people being together in a different space. That's one factor.
Mhm.
You bring yourself into that different space. So if you're non-communicative in your home space, you
Mhm.
could go off to a beautiful island with beautiful sunsets and drink your mojitos and still be
Mhm.
non-communicative.
Yeah.
So you have to take some tools with you. You have to take some things with you that says this is going to be kind of relaxing, but working on the relationship kind of time. It doesn't mean that you have to have deep, solemn conversations about everything every minute of the day. But can I share a tool that I give to some of my clients?
Yeah. Go ahead. Mhm.
There is a card, as I keep it on my phone, Gottman card decks.
Okay.
Card decks. And basically, what it does is if you download the app,
Mhm.
it'll provide you with questions that you guys could talk about. You'd be surprised at how many people stop being curious about their partners, about their spouse. They kind of feel like they've had every conversation they need to have.
Mhm.
And now all their conversation is related to the kids and housekeeping chores and doctor's appointments. And it's boring. It's
Mhm.
boring. You have to have some conversation that's interesting. Remember when you first started dating and you
Yeah.
had asked interesting questions?
Right.
Sometimes we forget to ask interesting questions. Your partners are still interesting. It's just you're
Mhm.
no longer interested in
Yeah.
finding out what's interesting about them. You feel like you know everything. So these card decks, I'm going to just read you one of the questions. If you could jump on a plane tomorrow, where would you go? Picture yourself with your loved one asking that.
Okay.
Now, whoever's in your life right now, Trey, do you know how they would answer that question?
You all right, hold on, you broke up a little bit now. Say that last part again.
Whoever is in your life right now, do you know how they would answer that question? If you
Well,
could jump on a plane tomorrow, where would you go?
yeah. Well, I'm single right now, so I wouldn't know. Okay.
Well, maybe the last person that was in your life.
Okay. Where
Do
would
you
I
think
go ahead.
do you think you would know their answer?
Nah, I wouldn't. Yeah.
So that would be a question that could elicit some interesting conversation, wouldn't it?
Yeah, it definitely would.
So it's these kind of things to ask, do you have a sweet tooth or a savory tooth? So they're not deep questions.
But yeah, I get
They're just fun questions.
you. Yeah. I get you. Uh I remember Kevin on stage said he been married 20 years. He said, and every, in those 20 years, I think they've been together for 5 years before that. And he was saying, like, in the stages, like every few years or whatever, your partner change, and you always gotta kind of relearn them and see what's the new them, but as you evolving, they evolving too as well. So it's always a step of you learning. And I think that maintenance part will go to that. You have these routines or drills you might give your clients or something like that to do, and they can constantly implement them like they do with their fitness routine and makeup routine, hair routine, all that, what I'm saying, all that goes in with that as well with a relationship. So I think that can go a long way too on that matter.
Yeah, and as you work with people who are separated by
Mm,
distances because of jobs, athletes, entertainers, and so forth,
mm-hmm,
these kind of questions are so important. I
mm-hmm,
think people get lazy and they think they could text a good morning, good
right.
evening,
Mm-hmm.
hello, hope you're having a great day, and
Yeah,
they call it connection.
yeah,
That is not good enough to maintain a relationship.
you're right.
My husband and I have been married 40 years. As I just said, we just celebrated our 40-year anniversary. Our
Mm-hmm,
children were so sweet. They threw a beautiful party at the country club for us, and it was a big
mm-hmm.
surprise. They came and blindfolded us.
Okay.
It was so much fun. I thought they were just taking us out to dinner, and then to end up in the local golf and country club, and they pulled off the blindfolds, and all our friends from even friends flew out from New York and so forth were there, and
They may.
it
Okay.
was a beautiful gala. I
Okay.
mean, I didn't think they had it in them because I have
Okay.
4 boys, and boys
Okay.
aren't known for doing things
Yeah,
like
you
that.
right. It probably was a team effort that, and
And
everything. Maybe.
but
Yeah.
my mom was involved,
Okay.
and my
Okay.
sister, because you have
Okay.
to have some females to say, "Okay, we need food, we need balloons, we need this, we
Yeah.
need that."
All right.
But getting back to the story, it's being married for 40 years, we've had to learn that we have to be very intentional with our engagement.
Mm-hmm.
Our children were a priority for many years. Me building a business was a priority for many years. My husband held down the fort with steady income and steady jobs. I'm very blessed. But when I was building my business, I had to intentionally pull him into my world, even though that wasn't his world.
Mm-hmm.
And he didn't ask to be in it. And he was very comfortable being on the sideline while I did what I did. But I recognize I could have just done all that and just kind of, not even checked in with him. I don't have to
Mm-hmm.
ask him questions about this, that, and the other. But I'd come home at the end of the day and I would talk to him about all my plans for expansion, what I'm going to buy, what I'm going to sell, what I'm going to, and so forth and so on. Then he'd ask me a couple of questions and he would maybe weigh in on some certain things. But it was just a conversation.
Mm-hmm.
So even though I could with all honesty say, well, it's my business. I built it. Just like your artist could say, well, it's my record. It's my sports. It's my, then
Yeah. You wouldn't with me
I
shooting in the
know
gym. You wouldn't with me shooting in the gym, the much, so to speak, in certain ways. Yeah.
that's it. I always say that how I couldn't have done what I did without his support. And it wasn't just the money. It was also just sitting down, having the conversations. So as my business grew and become successful, it's not like he stood around and said, I'm taking credit and ownership of it. He knows the part he played when he sat with me and we talked and we explored different options. Do I buy this building or do I just rent or do I, things like that. So for your artists and your athletes and so forth, of course, maybe they don't need their significant others to weigh in on do they sign a contract or do they move to another town or do, whatever those kind of big decisions are. But if you really want to have a healthy relationship, you allow people in to hear your processing, to feel like your spouse doesn't want to wake up one day and say, I just took a contract and we're moving to Indianapolis because I'm going to be playing with this team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Pack up the kids, babe. We're moving.
Right. I can see how that'd be a strain. Yeah. I can see how that. Yeah. Okay.
So, yeah, you might be like, okay, you made a great decision. You've taught it out. You've talked to your manager. You've talked to this person. You talked to, counted you. But did you speak to your wife? Did you speak to your
Mm-hmm.
significant other? Did you speak to, did you sit down with the kids? If you want to maintain the relationships,
Yeah.
communication is key.
Right. Now, would you? I agree with communication is key, but do you think that that person, like, maybe not necessarily saying that person need to be equally yoked with significant other one? Because when we think of artists and entertainers, that lifestyle is very different from the traditional 9 to 5 and so forth. So, do you think it takes a special? I won't just say special person, but the person just really understanding what it takes for that person to be able to put food on, we ain't got to just make it a gender thing, but just be able to, do what they do at an all time high and so forth, be understanding. Because if you see the guy that's all on the road, he at these, at these functions and so forth, and you might have, the woman thinking he's meeting, these different women and stuff like that, and that could not be the case, and vice versa. So do you think and then, with the guy might be thinking, she's of this nature and he's not even he looked at as an afterthought, and he might not feel, he kind of feel like emasculated or whatever in a sense because of her status or whatever. She's kind of famous, and they ain't got to be this famous, but she's got some kind of notoriety about herself and everything, and some kind of gusto. Do you think people getting into the relationship need to understand that, need to be a level of communication too, to let them know like what this lifestyle is about for as artists, entertainers, and what that entails?
You're speaking to two issues there.
Okay.
One is security with regards to the relationship commitment, and the other one is valuing the other person in terms of what they bring to the relationship. I'll speak to the second one first. Even if whoever is the big money person, whether it's the man or the woman, they still have to have equal value as far as the relationship. The value is not in who makes the most money. There were times in our marriage, my husband and I, where he made all the money and I made no money because I was building the business. I mean, there was, for 2 years in our relationship, there was not a penny that I brought into the household.
Hmm.
He handled all the bills. He took care of everything. If the money wasn't coming from it, we didn't have it.
Okay.
During those 2 years, I didn't feel lesser. I did not feel like, oh, I'm not contributing, so maybe I need to. We had both agreed on what was going on there.
Okay.
I was building something. I wasn't twiddling my toes. I wasn't like, I was doing a work that wasn't getting paid yet, but he had faith in me. And we see that in athletes too. We see this in people going to be doctors,
Yeah.
and they're eventually going to bring in the money, but there's probably a time when somebody's going to have to say, babe, I'm going to be working at Walmart while you're going to school because you have to,
Hmm.
I know what you're working on. Just because the wife's working at Walmart, that doesn't mean that she could look down on the one who's not bringing the money in. The value of the person isn't tied to how much money they bring in.
Hmm.
My husband could make $1 million and I still wouldn't feel lesser. I'm not making $1 million. Or I could make $1 million and he still wouldn't feel lesser. And there were times when I was making way more money than he was.
Hmm.
It didn't show in terms of how we treated each other. It didn't show in terms of how decisions were made.
Okay.
It wasn't matter. We sat down at the table. Here's what the income is here. Here's the other income. These are the bills. What's
Hmm.
left?
Right.
If it's $1 left, I get 50 cents. He gets 50 cents. And we do whatever we got to do.
Right.
So that's the valuing the relationship outside of the financial
Finance.
contributions that somebody makes. So that's
Okay.
an important thing. If you start disregarding your partner because of the money they're making or regarding them too highly because of the money they're making, or they're insisting that you regard them, that's going to be something that's going to break the relationship.
Okay.
Stop the end. Then the other thing is being secure in the commitment of the other person. You talked about being unevenly yoked. Many couples are unevenly yoked.
Okay.
But I also believe in the sacrament of marriage or the sacredness of marriage. And I know God could take what doesn't look good and he could create something beautiful out of it.
Okay.
There are people that I know right now who have been married for 30, 40 years, who started off like nobody would say they would have even made it. They were like, oh my God, you two are not meant to be together. Why on earth? And they believed it too after a period of time, after the headiness of love wore off and they were ready
Hmm.
to call it quits. Oh no, we are so incompatible. But they stayed together because of faith. They stayed together because they believed in the sacredness of marriage
Hmm.
and sacrament of marriage. And
Hmm.
they are so happy today. And they're like, oh my God, we're still so opposite. But you know what? I get it. I get
Right.
why we're together.
Yeah.
So it's about commitment. It's
Okay.
about recognizing what God has put together, let no man put asunder. Now, I
Hmm.
do want to do a little caveat to saying that. I'm not talking about relationships that are grounded in abuse or grounded in any form of, um, physical, mental, emotional, you know, abuse of the other person. I mean, that's
Hmm.
something that really needs to be looked at carefully. I'm not saying to anybody listening out there that if you are um, being subject to abuse because God has put you together, you have to stay and take it. There are other things you could do also.
Hmm.
But I'm talking to people who have fairly healthy relationships, but they just kind of feel like they're not a good fit.
Okay.
If you've
Um,
made that commitment, that's your commitment. Try and find a way to make it work.
yeah. Definitely. 'Cause like that. So what I'm like looking at too as well, like with the artist entertainment, they always constantly on the road. So a woman could feel very self conscious about that, where who he talking to, and or you never at home, you never paying attention to me. That's why I'm saying it could be a strain in that way. Like, so how would they be able to navigate that? And then part two of that, like if they have a full family, like kids and so forth, and significant others outside that as well, like parents, other family members and stuff like that, how do they be involved in that as well as being in their industry too at a high function on both sides? Or is it even possible? Because you hear that all the time. We talked about hustle culture where they were like, it ain't no work-life balance. If you really want to make it successful, you gotta be all this or nothing, pretty much, or whatever, and then come back around when the money's come. Then you can kind of go back into that. So, can you talk to those two things?
It comes back simply to this is a little joke I'm remembering by a famous therapist. I forget her name, and she says all marriages can be saved with one word. It's a 4-letter word. PALK.
Okay.
So your mind went someplace else, didn't it?
Yeah, I was trying to figure it out. Like, what's going on?
It's about communication, Trey.
Okay.
It really is. If you
Okay.
have people who cannot communicate, that is deadly. Silence kills more marriages than anything else, more so than abuse. When a partner stops talking, they've checked out. Okay. If they're still yelling, if I have a couple coming to my office and they are yelling at each other, I'm okay. I'm hopeful. I'm like, okay, they're still fighting. Okay, I can do that. If I have a couple comes to my office and they just sit like back to back or barely looking at each other, I have a couch and they're at either sides of the couch and the room is silent and all I'm hearing crickets, and I ask questions and I get just one-word answers and flat affect, and they never look to each other to check each other's answers or have a response. Even if it's a negative response, a person says something, they're like, even if I see that, I'm hopeful. If the person says something and they're just like, they've checked out, they're just like doing their time. I need to get to the divorce court. Make this quick.
Yeah.
So it's all about communication.
Okay.
All the issues that you just mentioned there, let's say he's there and he's surrounded by these gorgeous girls who are in skimpy outfits and, and they're throwing themselves all over him and da-da-da. You imagine the worst case scenario. She could sit there and eat her popcorn and just watch the show and feel perfectly secure if she could communicate.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, if they're doing the right thing, he's calling her and saying to her, did you see me there? And this, they were all over me and da-da. And she could say, yeah. And that gal, she had a booty that you could bounce a dime off of. And he could say, yeah, my God. And they could talk about it and they could laugh about it. And if she has a concern, she could say, so did anybody try to hit on you? And he could say, yeah, I got 3 numbers.
Yeah.
My husband came home one time from work and he looked at me and he says, somebody gave me a number today. And I said, oh, they did? What for?
Yeah.
Obviously, that person had eyesight to recognize it. He says, well, I'm just letting you know I didn't ask for it. And da-da-da. I said, I wouldn't expect that you did, hon. I'm like, people are going to shoot their shot. That's okay.
Yeah.
I say, you're not gonna take it back or what have you and so forth. He goes, okay, because I tore it up immediately. I threw it in the garbage. I'm like, we're good. I'm perfectly secure. You're okay.
Okay.
So I think it's about the communication, but you have to have the communication, and that would be able to take care of so many issues. If you're feeling something, learn how to say, this is what I'm feeling. This is the evidence for it. This is the thing that's triggering that feeling. Can we talk about it? Don't accuse. Don't be like, oh, you're going to cheat on me.
Oh, yeah.
It's your trauma talking. That's your past. Maybe somebody cheated on you once and you're like, everybody's going to cheat on you.
Right.
So, don't accuse people. Just say, okay, this is what I see. This is what I felt. This is, can we talk about it? And what would you like me to do in this instance? How should I handle this? What's a good thing that we could do to preserve our relationship? Because the number one priority for me is you.
Right.
I don't want you to feel insecure. I'm not going to be doing things to make you feel jealous, And if this is causing a problem in our relationship and it's something that's needed for my job, let's say I'm an actor or an actress and I have to kiss this leading man or woman or whatever, and that's going to cause you to feel jealous. Well, how do you think we should handle this? Yeah. Is there a way that I can handle it within the industry that allows us to make the money
Mm-hmm.
and me still do my job?
Yeah.
Or are we talking about me not taking any roles like that, which might negatively affect our income?
Well, yeah, I'm about to say that.
Yeah, because there's an actor. What's his name? I don't remember his name. I see him in my mind's eye. He's got white blonde hair, and he made that decision years ago. I think he was in The Matrix. I forget what his name is.
Keanu Reeves.
No, not Keanu Reeves. It's an older actor. Not older. He just has white hair. I'm gonna try and remember what he was in. But that's one of his stories. He said that listen, he had to make a commitment not to take any roles where he would be sexually provocative in any scenes with his co-stars. And that was a decision he and his wife made together. And he's not regretted it. He still takes acting roles. He's in a lot of action stuff. But for him, that wasn't right. That's not to say that everybody has to take that commitment. Maybe you have a part. I'll find it later on. I'll send it to you. My goodness, I could see him in my mind's eye, and I can't.
Okay.
But yeah, so sometimes you do have to make decisions. In
Mm-hmm.
my business, as I was building, I made a decision not to see clients late at night. I mean, my husband used to come to my office and sit in the lobby and wait for me because he was concerned, that I'd be in the office by myself late at night.
Mm-hmm.
And it was messing up, and I was like, this is ridiculous. This is messing up my family's, life. I mean, the kids were teenagers, so they were home alone, but they were teenagers. It wasn't a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
But he would be like, oh, you're seeing somebody at 7 o'clock? I'll be there. I'm like, you don't have to be there, honey. I'm just
Yeah.
going to, and it wasn't because he was jealous. It
Yeah,
was
I
just
know.
because he just didn't want to be in an office by myself. So I made a decision and I said to him, that's going to negatively impact our income because a lot of people want to see me after work. They want to see me at 6, 7, and 8 o'clock at night because that's the time they get home, and they get into the community. They come from Orlando all the way here and, by 6 o'clock they'll see me. And I said, if I make this decision to cut off my evening appointments, that's a big chunk of people I'm not going to be seeing. And he said, it's your decision, but the kids would rather you be home at night. I'd rather you I'll come to the office because if you're there, I'm going to have to come. I'm not going to let you stay there by yourself. And I said, okay, let's make that decision. We're just going to do that. God will provide. Well, as soon as I made that decision, and people would call me and say, well, can I have a 6:30 appointment? I said, I'm sorry, I don't have any appointments past 5, because 5 to 6. And I'd have people argue back with me and say, I don't get out of work until 5. How do you
Yeah.
expect me to put it on? And I would say to them, well, I guess I'm not the right therapist for you. There's lots of therapists who have evening appointments. Unfortunately, I do not have evening appointments. Well, as soon as I made that decision, I started getting so many people who had shift work, and they would come to see me before they left for work. They would
Okay.
come to see me at 2 o'clock,
Yeah.
because they were starting work. They were in the hospital. They were doing second or third shifts. They would
Mm-hmm.
come and see me. A whole bunch of people have lives that their work is like from 4 to whatever, or 3 to whatever, and they would come and see me in the daytime. Who knew?
Yeah, yeah, and that speaks of like testament to what you do and everything. They just okay. Well, I still need to see you. I'm gonna work with you, and stuff like that. So yeah,
I'll come in my lunch hour. Can I see you in my lunch hour? Come, you could even bring your lunch with you.
yeah, okay.
Yeah. But you,
Gotcha.
but you set your own priorities straight. You set your priorities. What is important to you? And in this case, me and my husband, we were in a
Okay, I got you. And that's the same thing for as with art entertainer when you talking about when it comes to their kids too. What would you say with that dynamic? They on the road now. We talked about relationships with significant others, but for the family as a whole, spending time with the kids and so on and so forth. Like, what would you say to that? Or is it the same with the communication? Or because sometimes, as a child, you're not really understanding it too. You can communicate, but at the same time, they might not be fully understanding of what's going on.
with children, though, is that you don't get a second chance to raise them.
Right.
So, whereas with relationships, even though you could say the same thing in terms of there's timing involved, with
Hmm.
children, it's very much more um, structured in such a way that, wait a second, they're not going to be adolescents forever. They're not going to be preteens forever. I mean, there's certain times of development that if you miss it, you miss it. You want to be significant in your child's life during all their stages and phases of growth.
Mhm.
Now, it may mean that you have to make some subtle shifts to how you do certain things.
Okay.
But if you're intentional, if you're paying attention, you're not saying, well, I'm just going to have to leave that on the side of the road because, and I'll come back and pick it up
Mhm.
when time allows for it. It's not going to be still sitting on the side of the road waiting for you.
Yeah.
Somebody else is going to pick it up, and you may not be the person or the friends that you want to pick it up. Kids who end up getting into bad groups is because there's no other body there to mentor them, nobody to lay a foundation for them.
Mhm.
You leave it all on maybe the wife to be mom and dad, or vice versa.
Mhm.
So many girls have grown up without a dad in the house. So many boys have grown up without the attention of a mom. So they need that person there in their life.
Mhm.
So does that mean that you have to stop work or you have to do something different? No, not necessarily, but you do have to sit with your children and explain to them what's going on to the best of their understanding. Make decisions with your partner so that they could support whatever the outcome is and not throw you under the bus. But like, your dad doesn't think about us anymore. He's off with his friends, he's out playing games when we're here and we're suffering. No,
Mhm.
that kind of conversation should never happen. If the spouse is supportive and they could say, dad's making a sacrifice too. He would really love to be here for your first game of the season, but his team is off in
Mhm.
whatever playing there. So we're going to do our best to communicate with him and keep up with him. How about I video your game
Mhm.
and kind of watch it together when dad's available, and we'll sit down and we'll see. He's not there live, but this is the
Yeah.
best we could do.
Right.
So when they see that you're making that effort, you get credit. You get
Okay.
credit.
Okay. Yeah. While you were talking about that, I was thinking about as well. I see few people in the entertainment industry, and I ain't gonna say few more than a few people, like Kevin Hart for one thing. I remember him saying he let his kids into his world, and everything like that. He bring them with him, and so forth, and so they can understand what's going on and stuff like that as well. I see people like Two Chains got a podcast with his son, stuff like that. So they kind of integrate them into the life, not necessarily like putting them in the life, but at the same time, making time around it with what they already doing currently.
Also giving them a real good understanding of what it is that you do and the value that it brings to the family.
Hmm.
Because if they don't understand, I remember one of my sons one time saying to me, Mom, what do you do all day? You're just like in that office, like you have people coming and talking to you. And I actually did do that. I brought him to my office, not because, well, confidentiality and privacy, he doesn't get to see the clients or
Yeah.
anything like. But one day when I had no clients and he was off from school, I picked him up and said, we're going to go to my office today. He was like, well, it's boring. What am I going to do there? And I said, I just kind of want you to see my day, what I do.
Hmm.
So I brought him in and I showed, this is a receptionist office. This is where she greets everybody.
Hmm.
But we just had fun. We role
Right.
played. I put him down. I said, "You're Andrea. That's the receptionist." And I'm walking. Hi, it's Mrs. Bonilla. And we
Yeah.
role played, and he joked around. It's like, "Nah, she doesn't want to see you." Joking. And I
Yeah.
said, "Okay, here we go."
Okay.
It was just like opening up his world. So I want him to see my day and envision, okay, this is where mom is today. She's probably greeting somebody. She's probably in that office. This is where she sits. This is where her clients sit. And this is what she does. And this is the importance of it. And when my husband and we always took wonderful vacations with the kids every year. But we would let them know part of the reasons they got to do all these we traveled all over the world with our kids. And we would say to him, this is not normal. This is, you're really blessed and privileged. And at the time, kids take for granted whatever it is you give them. They
Yeah.
think everybody has the same thing.
Right.
And we'd say, and my husband say, and this is why mom works so hard. I mean, you'll always have food on the table. You'll always have a roof over your head. I work hard, but
Hmm.
mom works hard so that we could have these wonderful vacations. So they got to see, oh, wait a second. If you're not out there working and hustling, okay, maybe we don't get to travel all over the world. So it's a value. Everybody
Okay.
has value.
Okay. Yeah, I got you. Now, talk about we talked about being a relationship coach or work. We didn't really talk much about the work life balance, but I want to talk about we can maybe get into that, but professional life strategist. So, what is that about? And, I know you remember we were talking about is not life coaching, so you were separating yourself from that. Can you shine some light on what is that about and everything?
Strategist, as the name implies, it's about how to strategize your
Hmm.
professional and your personal life so
Yeah.
that they play nicely together.
Okay.
I like to say I want you to have harmony with your business, your babies, and your boo.
Okay.
All of them need to work and play very nicely together. When
Okay.
there's tension between them, you're not happy. And if you're not
Hmm.
happy, they say if mama ain't happy, nobody ain't happy. If you're not happy, it rolls downhill. You're unhappy on your job. You come home, you take it out on your wife. You try and see this lack of harmony in the parental unit, and it's a whole unhappy household. Who wants that? If you are working and you feel satisfied with what you're doing there, and then you come home and you feel satisfied with your presence there and how you operate in that space, how
Okay.
much better for your kids to see somebody who is productive in their work life and in their professional life, in their professional life and in their personal life. One of the things I used to say is my husband had several jobs over the years, and only one time did he have a job that he really didn't like.
Hmm.
It was the worst time in our relationship. Not
Yeah.
because he did anything wrong, but because it hurt me so much to see him come home day after day so beaten down, so
Mm.
he wasn't depressed, but he was just so lacking enthusiasm and joy. And it just dampened the whole household. It was like just throw a bucket of water on all of us.
Yeah.
And he wasn't consciously trying to do it. It's just it was just a horrible job.
Mhm.
We sat down one day and I said to him, I don't care what you have to do, but you have to get a different job. And the job was paying well. And
Mhm.
he's like, what? I said, we can't continue like this. You are
Mhm.
absolutely miserable. I
Mhm.
see it every day. It makes me absolutely miserable to see you so absolutely miserable. The kids are like walking on eggshells because, you don't want to talk. I'm like, no, you get another job. I don't care if you work at Walmart. You got to do something different.
Yeah, I
And
feel
sure
you.
enough, within a month, he was on another job. And that was the last time I ever saw him so unhappy on a job. He's always made sure he's gotten jobs where he could do what he needs to do and just
Mhm.
enjoy doing it. And he gets up in the morning and he's a happy camper. He runs off to
Yeah.
work and he comes back at the end of the day with stories of all the stuff that's happening. So if your partner is not happy in their professional life, chances are it's going to impact your personal life, how you live
Okay.
together.
Okay.
What I do as a professional life strategist, remember, people are coming to me. I'm not knocking on your door saying, oh, you're happy.
Mhm.
People are coming to me and saying to me, no matter where I am, I feel guilty. If I'm at
Mhm.
home, I'm feeling I should be doing more towards my career. I'm feeling I'm not working hard enough to provide a legacy for my kids, to provide for my wife, to do, I feel like, I'm a slacker. I'm getting messages that I should be more ambitious, I'm trying to be here for my family, and
Mhm.
they want me to go back to school. They want me to do better, and da, da, da. Or I'm at work and I'm thinking to myself, my family feels neglected. My partner is looking at me like, yeah, right, all you do is work. But they don't see what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to build for them. What can I do to still be ambitious and a go getter, but allow them to know that I'm there for them? I mean,
Mhm.
I feel I'm damned if I do, damned if I don't. It doesn't matter where I am, I'm not happy, and the people around me are not happy. If I'm at work thinking about my family, they want me to take on extra projects that I might have to stay late, and I have to say no. So my boss isn't happy. They want to know why I have to leave on time because I have to go to my son's football game.
Mhm.
So how do I make everybody happy? Well, I sit there with them and I break it down and I talk about what are your priorities? What are the things that 5 years from now you're going to say, I wish I had done this or I wish I hadn't done that. I wish I had paid more attention here. I wish I had paid more attention there. Is it possible that the situation could change, that it's a temporary situation, you know?
mm,
And is it possible that maybe the intense discomfort you're feeling right now is not long term, but it's situational? It's
mm,
because you're going through changes on the job. Maybe management is, being turned around and,
mm,
can you like hold out for another 3 months and talk to your partner and let them know that if this continues past the 3 months, when this whole reorganization happens
mm,
and nothing changes, I will make some definite changes. Can you communicate that way? So sometimes when we sit back and we talk about it, they're like, oh my God, I didn't realize. Oh, yeah. In another
yeah,
month or two, this is either going to get better. If it stays the same way, then yeah, I'm going to put those resumes out there. I could do that. And I could tell my partner that. And I think they'll be happy to know that there's some movement that I've been hearing, that I'm listening to them, that I want to prioritize the relationship.
okay, I got it. Yeah, it makes sense, makes sense. And like I said, it still goes into that work-life balance, what you were saying and everything, just really, involving it's and I guess it still goes back to the communication thing, as you said, like, as well too, with that. Now I want to be respectful of your time and everything. I'm good if you're good, but is there anything else that we haven't discussed that you want to talk about?
Oh, well, yeah, I have a program coming up, if I can mention that. End of the year, I always put together a program because I work with a lot of people who are small businesses, entrepreneurs,
Mm,
and I put together a program that kind of helps them look back at what's been going on, what's worked and what's not working,
mm,
and also be proactive in planning for the new year. This year, I'm doing a garden theme. I'm a gardener. I love to garden,
okay.
and it's called Garden of Growth. This year's program. You could find it on my website, www.allisonbcoaching.com, and I'm registering for it. It's starting in a week, 2 weeks, November 10th. So whenever
Mm,
this goes out, November 10th, Monday.
right.
It's 4 sessions. It's group coaching. It's 4 sessions where I take you through how to sit and evaluate and plan, because with work life balance, it's all about preserving your energy. It's all about managing your stress. It's all about doing the things that work and not doing the things that aren't working but are draining your energy
Mm,
that can be better spent maybe with your family or with your professional life. We don't have energy to waste. You want to use it very well.
okay.
So it's about helping you really kind of review everything and make some definite determinations. And that's strategy. Strategy is not just
Mm,
throwing things on the wall and seeing what sticks. Strategy is purposefully engaging in activities, behaviors, mindsets that will allow you to move forward in whatever your stated goal is.
okay.
So I take business people through that. And somebody asked me yesterday, can somebody come into the program who's not involved in a business? Can they use it for their personal life? And I said, yes, you could do that too. Maybe you have a personal goal, maybe not a career goal. You just take everything and translate it in that way. What worked? I have people I've coached who are looking for a relationship. They're like, I don't understand why I'm not married right now. I want to be married. This kind of a relationship. I've just had no luck, things
Right.
like that. And the same questions, but what have you tried? What has worked? What has not worked? Because sometimes things work, but they work temporarily and there was something that changed it up. What are you willing to do going into the future? What kind of things can you do to cultivate the kind of relationships that you want to have in your life? So the questions are kind of the same, but just shifted a little bit for relationship versus career and profession. Garden of Growth starting November the 10th. It's a Monday,
Okay.
7 to 8 o'clock. It's an online program,
Okay.
and I will be there to do what I do.
Okay. And how long? And that was one of my questions. Like, who is all for? You said personal life, business people. Now, what this show is for, artists and entertainers. Could they take part in this, or would it be beneficial to them? So forth. Okay.
Only requirement is you have to have some goals. You have to
Okay.
have something you want to work on for next year. And the focus will be in balancing those things. I'm not
Okay.
a business coach. I'm not going to tell you how to get an SBA loan. I'm not going to tell you how to, build your, no, that's not what I'm going to do. I want you to grow emotionally sustainable way. That's the help that I'm looking at. I'm
Mm,
looking at you, Trey, just do what you do, but at the end of the day, I don't want you to have a fat bank account, but a very skinny or empty soul. I want you to have relationships in your life that feed you, that strengthen you, even as you're building your business.
okay.
It doesn't have to be either or. It doesn't have to be career or relationships. It can be both. And sometimes we have to make some hard decisions with regards to seasons of what times and what seasons that we pour more into one thing versus the other.
Mm,
But my belief is nothing needs to be left on the side. You have to be able to walk, talk, and chew gum. You have to be able to work both things at the same time. And communication being the key that helps, the grease that helps grease the wheels of progress.
okay. And I got you. And the program, how long does it last for?
It's only 2 months, and it's only
2 months.
two
Okay.
sessions in November and two sessions in December,
Okay.
because in between the meetings, that's when you're doing the work, and
Okay.
then we come back and I show you something else you need to do and work on or
Okay.
consider, and at the end of it, you have tools moving you into the new year. In that new year, you hit the ground intentionally and you're running towards something, and you say, "Okay, I know I'm going to be working on being an emotionally sustained, strong person as I'm doing what I do." I can't tell you, Trey, how to do the fitness coach and trainer part. That's your thing. That's your expertise. You'll do that, and you'll do that with excellence. What I can help you with, if you were part of my program, is you said you're single right now. I don't know that if that's your future. Maybe you're contemplating down the road. I'd like to be able to successfully integrate some kind of a relationship in that.
Mm,
But I don't wanna do that right now because I'm kinda building this, and this is,
yeah.
this has
I
gotta
got
be have my full attention. But you might be like, "Well, let me see if it was. How would this fit? How would this look? What
you. Okay.
would I have to give up? What would I have to incorporate?" And you make your decisions there, but you're intentional now.
Okay. Okay. I like that. All right. Sounds good. And it's called the Garden Garden of Growth. Okay. All right. Cool. So, is anything else you want to talk about that we haven't discussed today?
I think you've covered quite a range of things. Hopefully, somebody finds some value in anything that I've said. I
Definitely.
I always pray that, my words are life-giving and provide wisdom for the hearers and the listeners.
Yeah, yeah. It was a couple things that we didn't we talked about during the pre-interview that I could have put in, like with the mental health with Gucci Mane, but we can go from there. But I would want to say, out of everything that we talked about today, what do you think would be the biggest takeaway that somebody can get from this? In whether it be their work life relationship, their relationship, and just navigating life as a whole and in their business and so forth. What would you say be the biggest takeaway that they can get from this?
I think in several points when we talked, it came back to communication. We talked
Mhm.
about
Yeah,
a four-letter word,
yeah.
TALK.
Right.
And it's surprising how many people struggle on communication. They say the words, "Do you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth?" Yeah, they say the
Mm,
words. Sometimes either it's not communicated well or it's not received well. Communication is a two-way street, and you have to learn how to provide good communication, but you also have to learn how to receive it well and be able to seek for clarification when there's confusion and misunderstanding. That's how you keep relationships strong and build them well. So, if nothing else, if anyone is struggling with communication, seek help with that. Of course, I incorporate it in everything I do because it's the foundation of relationships, whether they're professional or personal relationships.
mm,
Like I said, silence is what kills relationships. Silence when the boss is no longer talking to you, when your significant other is no longer talking to you, then that kind of tells you they've already made a decision.
yeah, definitely. And I was go now. Go ahead. Go ahead.
So you want to keep communication strong and healthy.
Definitely. And I would like to add to that what you were saying about mental health too as well. Check in with yourself and realize, don't wait to think I'm gonna get better later on. If you feeling you in some kind of state, talk to a coach like yourself or a therapist and everything as well.
Do that because, I mean, hey, it's not about pulling yourself up by your own bootstraps. I mean, we're in this world, we're meant to have a community.
Hmm.
And I think the World Health Organization declared, was it 3 years ago, that loneliness is a number one health factor, is negatively impacting
Mm.
society.
Yeah,
Loneliness, not cancer, not heart disease, but loneliness.
that's another topic we can talk about. I just something came in my head, but go ahead.
And the only way we could fight loneliness is to connect and to
Right.
be in community
Hmm.
and healthy community.
Right.
So again, how are you going to be in a healthy community if you're not going to communicate, or if you're fearful of communication, or you have a negative view on it? So it might be therapy that's needed,
Hmm.
or it might be a coach that's needed,
Okay.
or maybe you could do it without either. That's fine too. But just note that if you are in a place where loneliness is your companion, or you're feeling very disconnected, or you feel like you're not in communities that you could trust or that are supportive of you, or you have a negative view on your community. They're
Mm.
manipulative. They just want my money. They don't care about me. And all those negative thoughts. Oh no, you need to talk to somebody who could show you the pathway to get back into a healthy mindset about community, because you're going to need it to survive.
Definitely. Okay, so we'll end it right there on that note. So shout out again your program and your link for everybody to check you out and may want your services and so forth. Okay, cool.
Register and everything right and pay everything right there.
Okay, y'all check Allison out, and if you need help, definitely talk with her and see what y'all can do. All right, so I would say thank you for coming on the show. Definitely been a blast. I would definitely like to have you on again. Like I said, there was a couple other things we definitely can talk about, and so forth. So I would love to have you on at another time, and
Well, it
so
was my
forth.
pleasure. Thank you so much, Troy. I really, truly enjoyed this time together.
All right, cool. Me too as well. All right, so we gonna end it here, and I've been your host, Trea Da Fit Artist, and Allison Bonilla. Peace out, y'all. Thank you for tuning in to this episode. If you enjoyed it, be sure to follow us on social media and subscribe to the show wherever you listen to podcasts so you never miss an episode. If you're looking for fitness coaching to help you reach your goals, want to join our animated network for fitness guidance, collaborations, networking, and community, or are interested in being a guest on the show, check out the links in the description. Stay creative, stay fit, and we'll holler at you next time.